So yesterday I watched The Electric State, and my first thought was mid, just a mediocre, forgettable movie. I wasn't even planning to talk about it on my channel. It wasn't just another forgettable Netflix movie. But then I found out this movie costs 3,020 million to make. And I was like, how? How can a movie this mediocre be so expensive? Most of the budget went to actors and directors' fees. Instead of investing in world building, the script, they threw all the money at big name actors and the Russo brothers. And here's the thing, nobody cares about big actors if the story is bad. You can have a completely unknown cast, and if the script is good, people will love the movie. But if you take A-list actors and put them in a hollow, uninspiring story, it doesn't matter, the movie will still suck. They spent all this money on big names, and what did we get? A movie that looks like a Disney Channel production with the visual style of The Gray Man, The Avengers, and all of those movies that have this same style of... it's just a forgettable style. And let's begin with the plot. Spoiler warning, if you want to see the movie and you didn't watch it, go watch the movie and then you come back to watch me talk about it. Alright, let's go over the story so we're all on the same page. The movie starts with a sister and brother, then cuts to some years later and the sister is alone, having been adopted by a guy. One day a random robot appears in her house and tells her that he is actually her brother. She just believes him immediately, no questions, no hesitation. Who does that? So now they set off on a journey to find her real brother. Along the way they meet a merchant who does nothing relevant. They then become friends with some robots who are also forgettable and really they are just there to be there. And then she finally reaches her brother, only to be forced to kill him. That's it, that's the story. And it's so basic that it feels like it was written just right now, on the moment. Firstly, let's talk about why this plot doesn't work. So the protagonist blindly follows a robot she doesn't know. People in this world are supposed to fear robots because in the beginning of the movie they explained that was a big war between humans and robots. So she trusts this robot with no hesitation, no questions. The robot says to her he is his brother and she believes him. Okay, the character's motivations don't make sense. People just go along with things because the plot needs them to. There's no emotional depth. Like the guy, the merchant guy, the Chris Pratt guy, just go with her because he says that the doctor will help him get away from there. What kind of reason is that? It just goes with her just because the plot wants him to go. The villain is just a generic rich guy who wants to control the world. No complexity, no real backstory, just a rich dude being evil because he's evil. It's like the whole story is stitched together with weak glue. There's no natural flow. Now let's talk a little bit about the visuals. This movie is ugly. It's just grey, lifeless and uninspired shit. It looks exactly like every other Russo brothers movie. It looks like The Avengers, The Gray Man, every single movie that they made, you know? The same boring, forgettable aesthetic that makes everything feels like it was filmed in the garage with bad lighting. And what makes it worse? The comic book this movie is based on looks amazing. The artwork in the comic is colorful, detailed, and full of personality. Every panel feels alive, the world looks unique, it feels like a place you want to explore. But instead of trying to capture that, they went for the same washed out, generic Hollywood look. It's like they didn't even try. Seriously, if you put this movie side by side with The Gray Man or any other recent Netflix blockbuster, you wouldn't even tell the difference. It's that forgettable. Now, the characters. No personality, no impact. Let's talk about them. Millie Bobby Brown is just playing Eleven again, Chris Pratt is just doing Star-Lord again, Giancarlo Esposito is playing Gus Fring again, same actors, same roles, no originality. They just feel dumb, dull, generic characters like the villain. They didn't even bother mixing things up. Imagine if Chris Pratt played the villain and Giancarlo Esposito played the merchant. At least that would be interesting. But as it is, every character is one-dimensional, predictable and boring. And because the characters are so hollow, the emotional moments don't land. You have Chris Pratt and the robot, and you don't really feel like their friendship, you know? You don't feel like there's much depth on their friendship. You don't feel that the brother and sister have that connection of brother and sister, you know? You just feel like, oh, they are sister and brother, you know? Even when the doctor dies, you don't feel a little bit sad for the doctor, you know? You feel like, oh, he died, I don't really care. Even when Peanut is without his hat, you don't feel like, oh my god, he will die. If he dies, you will not feel sorry for them. Now let's talk about the ending. At the end, the protagonist has to make a heartbreaking decision. Kill her brother or let him stay trapped in the machines. The problem? We don't care. We never got to see their relationship develop. We don't get any meaningful flashbacks. We don't feel their connection. So when the moment comes, it's just whatever. It's supposed to be this big emotional climax, but instead it's like, oh, okay, the movie is over. Time to go do something else. And that's the real failure of the Electric State. It's not just bad, it's soulless. For my final thoughts, the world of the Electric State could have been amazing, the comic book looks incredible, and the story had potential. But instead of taking the time to create something unique, Netflix turned it into another overpriced, lifeless blockbuster that no one will remember in a month. And that's what pisses me off the most. Netflix isn't interested in making good movies anymore. They're just interested in selling content. Everything they touch gets stripped of personality and turned into a safe generic product that exists just to fill up the algorithm. At the end of the day, this movie is the perfect example of what's wrong with modern Hollywood. Big box, big budget, big actors, zero soul. Thanks for watching and bye bye.